On May 10th, employees of Wayley Star Toys in Shenzhen gathered outside the factory with banners demanding their unpaid wages. They called on the company's owners, Chen Zhūróng and Jiang Rìshēng, to settle the outstanding amounts. The workers said that after returning from the May Day holiday, they found the company had shut down. However, they still had not been paid for 8 months of wages, and there was no mention of any compensation for the company's closure. For several days, 400 workers protested at the factory, demanding that the company settle the wages and provide compensation. On May 6, Shenzhen Wayley Star Toys announced a complete halt to operations. The company cited a drastic drop in orders due to clients canceling their cooperation and the ongoing market downturn in recent years. Despite the management's efforts to turn things around, the company was unable to reverse its overall decline. This marked the end of the 30-year-old toy manufacturer. According to public records, Shenzhen Wayley Star Toys was established in 1995 as a Hong Kong-invested company producing plastic toys. Its products were mainly sold in North America and Europe, making it a typical export-oriented company. In recent years, the toy industry has faced declining demand due to a shrinking birth rate and the rise of electronic games. This has put pressure on the revenues and profits of toy companies. Furthermore, with the start of the US-China trade war this year, American consumers suddenly canceled orders, which ultimately led to the company's collapse. However, workers revealed that the owner had moved the factory to Vietnam, a trend that many companies in Shenzhen and Dongguan have followed. Apart from the company in Shenzhen, on May 11th, workers from another company owned by Chen Zhūróng and Jiang Rìshēng, Wayley Cultural Industry in Heyuan, Guangdong, launched a protest on the company's rooftop to demand their wages. The video of the protest spread widely on X platform. Some people commented that it was hard to imagine workers still showing up for work after 8 months of unpaid wages. Others remarked, "Now that they've gone to Vietnam, let's see if they still dare to withhold wages. They are taking advantage of the lack of human rights and legal protection for Chinese workers." Some workers said they had already predicted this. The owner waited for the May Day holiday to make his escape. May Day is one of China's key statutory holidays, and is typically a rare break for workers. However, for many workers in 2025, the holiday became a nightmare. They never imagined that their employers would close the factory and move assets while they were on holiday, only to return and find the factory empty, with equipment removed, the owner out of contact, and their long overdue wages unpaid. On May 6, workers at Shenzhen Bofu Motor found the factory gates closed when they returned from the holiday. The owner was unreachable, leaving only a notice of suspension of wages and employment. The company had already owed workers 2 months of wages. Since May 6, the workers have continuously protested at the factory, but have made no substantial progress. One worker lamented, "They gave us nothing but a notice of suspension. What are we vulnerable groups supposed to do? We have elderly parents and children to support." Bofu Motor was established in 2007 with a registered capital of 5 million yuan, specializing in the research, production, and sales of electronic curtain motors, tubular motors, and intelligent control systems. Its products are primarily exported to Europe, the Americas, and Asia, indicating that it is another export-driven foreign trade factory. On May 12th, a large group of workers gathered outside the Guangdong Leizhou Bright Optical Manufacturing Park to protest for their unpaid wages. Several employees exposed on social platforms that the factory had frequently delayed payments since the beginning of the year, citing tight funds as the reason. Some workers have not been paid for several months. However, in early May, the company suddenly announced an 11-day temporary holiday and said it would be closed until mid-May. During the workers' holiday, the company quietly moved out production equipment, leading to suspicions that they were preparing to run away. When the workers returned to the factory, they found it completely empty. Bright Optical Manufacturing Park, established in Leizhou, Guangdong in 2022, belongs to Hong Kong's Bright Optical Group. The company mainly engages in eyewear manufacturing and smart wearable devices. According to the company's website, Guangdong Bright Optical Group Company was established by Hong Kong's Bright Optical Group in the Zhanjiang-Leizhou Economic Development Zone in 2022. The first phase of the Bright Optical Manufacturing Park covers 18 acres, was a planned annual production of 15 million pairs of glasses and an annual sales volume of 300 million yuan. The future plan includes an 80-acre expansion, aiming to attract high-end eyewear manufacturing from Shenzhen and Dongguan, and to establish a leading eyewear industry base in China with an annual output value of 2 billion yuan. This indicates that the company had plans to expand its production scale. Bright Optical Group is a well-known eyewear designer and manufacturer with over 30 years of experience in designing and producing mid to high-end eyewear brands. The group also owns manufacturing bases in Dongguan, Guangdong, and Wenzhou, Zhejiang. With over 3,000 employees, the company produces over 10 million pairs of glasses annually, generating a sales volume of 500 million yuan. The company cooperates with numerous internationally renowned eyewear brands. It is unclear why such a large-scale eyewear manufacturer would adopt such a method of withholding wages and avoiding compensation. However, other information shows that the company set up a subsidiary in Hai Duong Province, Vietnam, in May 2023, responsible for final assembly, and operates a twin city model with the Leizhou base. Products are exported through Vietnam to Southeast Asia and international markets. Given the high tariffs from the US, it is likely that production capacity has been shifted to the Vietnam factory. It seems that to prevent workers from blocking the move, the equipment was quietly moved out during the May Day holiday, possibly now relocated to Vietnam. A rights protection blogger pointed out that the tactic of withholding wages, then taking a holiday, and later moving the factory is not uncommon in the manufacturing industry. Many companies, when facing operational difficulties, use holidays as an excuse to avoid compensation and payment obligations, severely violating workers' rights. On the night of May 8th, workers at Hualiyuan Lithium Energy in Jiangxi discovered that equipment was being moved out in secret. After being noticed by employees, the workers blocked the operation. According to workers, Hualiyuan has owed workers 4 months of wages and recently announced an indefinite holiday, attempting to indirectly lay off workers and evade compensation. Hualiyuan Lithium Energy is said to be a prominent local enterprise. The headquarters in Jiang, Jiangxi covers 300 acres, and the third phase of its plant production capacity is expected to reach tens of billions. The company's core products are manganese iron phosphate lithium batteries, mainly used in two-wheel vehicles, energy storage, and 3C digital fields. Domestic and international markets each account for 50%, and the products are exported to Southeast Asia, Europe, North America, and other regions. It is also worth mentioning that the company has a factory in Vietnam, established in 2023. The secretive movement of equipment is likely being transferred to the Vietnam factory. Based on the situations of the companies mentioned, Vietnam has become a new choice for many Chinese companies to shift production lines, driven by the US-China trade war. Additionally, companies like Wayley Star Toys, Bright Optical Manufacturing Park, and Hualiyuan Lithium Energy all have subsidiaries in Vietnam, which provided favorable conditions for the transfer of production capacity. Under the pressure of high US tariffs, shifting production capacity has become a major trend. However, the wave of wage protests and rights protection actions that erupted after the May Day holiday reveals a chilling phenomenon. First withholding wages, then taking a holiday, and later moving the factory has become the standard routine for many companies. Many workers not only lost their jobs, but have also been denied wages for months, leaving them in a heartbreaking situation. In the current economic downturn in China, factory closures, wage arrears, and owners fleeing have become increasingly common occurrences. Since May 6, employees of Jiang Packaging Products Co., Ltd., located in the Zhūróng Technology Park in Huizhou, Guangdong, have been protesting after the company's owner absconded with unpaid wages. Workers have been blocking the factory gates for several consecutive days, demanding their salaries. A video from the scene shows local law enforcement negotiating with the employees. However, according to a post by a blogger on X, the protest has yet to yield any results, as local authorities are passing the blame between departments. A search on Baidu shows that Jiang Packaging Products was established in May 2023, with a registered capital of 1 million yuan, classified as a small business. The company primarily engages in the production of paper and paper products, with packaging services for industries such as cosmetics, alcohol, health products, and small household appliances, covering a wide range of materials, including paper, leather, plastic, and metal. On Douyin, a letter from the company's owner to all employees surfaced, stating that Jiang has been struggling since its inception. The owner mentioned that the ongoing tariff war had severely shrunk customer orders, and with the property management company cutting off utilities and locking vehicles, the situation has become untenable. The owner claimed to have mortgaged personal assets, including cars and houses, to keep the business afloat, and that even basic family needs, like paying for children's education, had become difficult. He expressed exhaustion and announced that the property management and labor department would take over the company's closure process. In the comments below the video, a supplier also questioned the owner about an unpaid processing fee of 40,000 yuan, revealing that it wasn't just the employees who were owed money, but suppliers as well. One comment said that they saw the company recruiting on a large scale last year, and yet it has now shut down. This situation is not isolated. A Guangdong netizen commented, "So many bosses are fleeing this year, and I feel like ours is preparing to leave too. We haven't been paid for March yet." The collapse of Jiang packaging products reflects the dire state of China's manufacturing sector, particularly among small enterprises tied to export supply chains. Although Jiang did not directly participate in exports, its role in the supply chain means its failure affects not only its employees, but also its suppliers, who may be dragged down with it. This highlights that the impact of the US-China tariff war goes beyond export companies and threatens the survival of the entire industrial chain. On May 8th, a large number of workers gathered at Shenzhen Electronics in Hubei to protest for their unpaid wages. According to bloggers, the workers have not been paid for 3 to 4 months, and social security contributions have not been made for over a year. Shangda Electronics Huangshi Co. Limited, founded on June 6, 2014, and registered in the Huangshi Economic and Technical Development Zone in Hubei, is a national high-tech enterprise focused on the research and production of flexible circuit boards, FPC. The company is a key construction project in Hubei province and has received government policy support. The company primarily produces flexible circuit boards, rigid flex boards, and other products widely used in smartphones, tablets, smart wearables, and automotive electronics. It ranks in the top 5 in FPC production nationwide, consistently placing among the top 3 in sales within the domestic industry. Shangda is also a core supplier to companies like BOE. In 2024, its production value exceeded 500 million yuan, with approximately 1,800 employees at its Huangshi base. Despite being a significant player in the electronics industry, Shangda Electronics is facing wage arrears, highlighting the severe crisis now affecting China's manufacturing sector. On May 12th, outsourced workers at Jiangsu Taixin Dayang shipyard protested outside the factory gates over unpaid wages. According to the workers, they had been demanding their wages for 17 days without resolution. Similarly, on May 12th to 13th, workers at Qianlima Embroidery Factory in Haimen, Jiangsu, found themselves without their wages, totaling several million yuan, and they protested for 2 consecutive days without results. On May 9th, Chongqing Bishi Aokang Red Firebird Shoe Industry Co. Limited declared bankruptcy, leading workers to gather outside the factory, demanding compensation from the owner.
Look, such a big factory is collapsing. Workers are demanding justice, but the boss won't show up.
The factory's size is clearly substantial, as seen in the footage. According to available data, the factory currently has 391 insured employees, though there are likely many more temporary workers who are not covered. The factory specializes in the production and export of leather shoes, and its closure is clearly linked to the impact of the high tariffs. On May 12th, workers at Wuhan Gaomu Automotive Parts Factory in Hubei staged a large-scale strike, following the sudden withdrawal of investment by a Japanese company. The workers gathered at the factory on May 10th, demanding compensation according to the N+1 standard and a clear response from the company. The controversy surrounding the situation extends beyond the strike. After the Japanese company withdrew its investments, the factory was sold to a Chinese investment firm without shutting down. Some online commentators questioned the need for compensation, pointing out that the sale of the company was not equivalent to layoffs. Others argued that while the assets left behind by the Japanese company were sufficient to cover compensation, the real issue was that the new Chinese owners were unwilling to pay. The factory, which had long cooperated with multiple vehicle manufacturers, had once been in a favorable business position. The sudden withdrawal of investment caught workers off guard, with many expressing frustration over the lack of communication and arrangements from the company since the news broke. As a result, many frontline workers became increasingly agitated. However, a search for information on the Japanese withdrawal from the factory on Baidu yielded no results, suggesting that it may have been blocked. On the Douyin platform, there were reports indicating that the factory had already downsized due to reduced orders last year. The ongoing crisis of factory closures and unpaid wages has led many workers to seek daily wage jobs, which, though offering temporary income, are unstable and poorly paid, making it difficult to sustain normal life. Consequently, the Shenzhen Longhua Automotive Station Square became a hub for these workers. However, the square has now been cleared by the Shenzhen government after Western media coverage of the issue affected the image of the CCP. A video filmed on May 12th shows the square completely cleared, with the streets empty and doors locked, while staff in red vests were seen guarding the area. While this superficial cleanup may cover up some issues, it cannot hide the reality that the Chinese economy, under the CCP's rule, is nearing collapse. The widespread protests for unpaid wages across the country are a clear sign of the systemic failure within China's manufacturing sector under the impact of tariff policies. This crisis further explains the CCP's eagerness to reach a tariff agreement with the United States. Despite claims of significant progress in the talks between China and the US on May 12th in Switzerland, a deeper analysis reveals that China has made substantial concessions. Both sides have maintained a 10% basic tariff, but with the addition of around 20% tariffs from Trump's first term, as well as two 10% tariffs imposed during his second term, the actual US tariff on China is approximately 50%. In contrast, China only imposes a 10% tariff on US goods, creating a 40% disparity. Furthermore, China had previously used transshipment through Southeast Asia and Mexico to avoid some tariffs, but Trump's new policies have effectively blocked such practices, increasing China's tariff burden by 10 to 15%. Despite this, China has accepted these measures without retaliation, marking a significant concession. The joint statement also revealed that China has suspended or canceled all non-tariff retaliatory measures against the US, including the rare earth export ban, restrictions on US agricultural imports, and investigations into DuPont, effective April 2nd, 2025. However, the US has not lifted similar measures, such as the ban on NVIDIA's H20 chips. This means that China unilaterally canceled its non-tariff retaliatory measures, while the US restrictions remain in place, highlighting a clear imbalance. Moreover, punitive tariffs on specific sectors such as automotive, semiconductor, steel, aluminum, and pharmaceuticals remain. Experts estimate that these tariffs could raise the overall tariff level by around 4%. Thus, the actual average US tariff on Chinese goods stands at 54%. On May 12th, Trump signed an executive order adjusting the tariffs on small Chinese packages to 54%, which is the current average tariff rate on all US-China trade categories. The joint statement also sets a 90-day deadline until July 1st for China and the US to reach a substantive trade agreement. If no agreement is reached in the next 47 days, the US will impose an additional 24% tariff, raising the total tariff level to 78%. The current 54% tariff already exceeds the threshold for Chinese exporters, and many businesses are on the brink of bankruptcy. If no agreement is reached by July 1st, the 78% tariff could devastate China's export sector. The 47-day window granted by the United States may offer an opportunity for more factories to leave China. It is anticipated that, in the future, more factories will shut down or relocate from China, leading to further unemployment and unpaid wages for workers.